Hello, I'm Stacy, and I'm going to talk about an event that changed what I'm going to school for. When I grew up, my dad was a captain of the fire department and he was an EMT. So he was always teaching me little things that he thought I would want to know, like dressing wounds and taking blood pressure, temperature, pulse, things that I could do while I was young. And I did very often to people, whether they wanted me to or not. And I had so much fun doing it. I always knew I wanted to give back to the community like my dad did, and I always knew I wanted to help people the way that my dad did by taking care of them and being able to help them when they're hurt. I graduated high school early and started going to college, taking classes, and knew that I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a surgeon. Cardiothoracic mostly is what I had decided. I met my husband and we got married and I moved to where he's from, which is a little over an hour away from Iowa City, which is where I grew up. And it's a very, very small community. We have less than 300 people out here. It's in the middle of nowhere basically, so there's really not anything around us, no hospitals. We do have a clinic by about 15 miles, maybe 20 miles away that is accessible, and in an emergency, there is kind of an emergency room there. But in a severe case, they always have to transport out, which is a little devastating to know just because I have two children. I have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old, both boys, and in the event of something happening to them, we have air care that can come out and they land right behind our house, but it just is kind of terrifying knowing that there's nothing around here. So it's nice that I am in school learning things so that way in the event of something I can always take care of them first, and if it's severe then we can transfer out, but that I can do things to kind of stop the severity. After a while, I decided that I wanted to kind of talk to the community and talk to the doctors and the nurses and the physician assistants out here to get their opinions on things, since they're from out here, on where my path should maybe be going. And I had decided to transfer into the physician assistant program. I got all my prereqs done and I was getting ready to get into the program when an event happened that changed my mind, and I decided to yet again switch to another field in the healthcare industry, and that's to nursing and to go on to be a nurse practitioner. We were out at Lake Iowa camping, and we went to another site, to my in-laws site, and where they were, they had their fire pit lit up, but the ones next to them, nobody was there, and we had our truck parked. It was very dark. It was 11:30 at night when we decided to head back to our site. So since nobody else was in the sites next to us and the fire pits weren't lit up, my son didn't see one and tripped and fell in, my oldest son. The fire pits there are kind of like very large tractor tire rims that are like cast iron. The grates that go on top of them so that you can grill are cast iron. So when he fell, he hit his shins and broke them open a little bit, but when he fell in, his tummy fell on the cast iron grates. When he got up, he wasn't really breathing very well. His tummy just felt a little odd. He didn't feel very well at all. And of course, his legs hurt. I kind of checked him over and decided the best thing to do would be just to take him to the hospital, just in case he had done any internal damage to his belly when he landed on the grate. When we got to the nearest hospital, all of the nurses were fantastic. The doctor was very accurate with what she was doing. Obviously, she knew what she was doing. But it was a very scary event because my son didn't know what was going on. He just knew that he hurt, and then all of a sudden all of these IVs were in him. People were taking his blood. He had splints all over. There's just all sorts of things going on, and nobody was explaining to him, which is common because it was an emergency situation and they were getting their jobs done and they did it very well. However, at that hospital, since we are close to basically nowhere, we had to have him taken to the University of Iowa, which I've always been fond of their children's hospital because of just the great things that they do. While we were there, the doctors were great, but as most of you know, probably a lot of them are students, which is great for them to learn things, but they're not very personable. The nurses were just knew everything that was going on with him, asked him question after question, made sure he was comfortable, just checked on him so much, brought him blankets that people had made and donated for the kids who stay at the children's hospital. And that made him feel so much more comfortable. It made him feel so much less scared. And that helped me feel better knowing that my son wasn't as scared as he could have been if nobody was paying attention to him. When we got home, I asked him questions about what he felt from the hospital stay, because he had to stay overnight and then the whole next day. And he loved the nurses so much, and he had so many good things to say about them and the things that they did for him. He didn't really care for the doctors. He doesn't really understand that, how busy they are and that they don't really have time to sit around and talk and everything. But with a child, I believe that bedside manner is a huge, huge thing. So when my son was so smitten with these nurses that were so amazing with him, I kind of stepped back and took a look at where we are out here and the fact that I know almost everybody out in this community and the communities around, and the fact that what I would like to do is become a nurse and hopefully not lose track of that bedside manner and open up my own practice being a nurse practitioner. Everybody out here knows where I live. It would be very easy for them to come to me. Now, I know that I could do that as being a doctor, and I know not all doctors lose their bedside manner, but just for me, that experience of my son being so smitten with them and it being such a big deal to him with the nurses, I feel very confident and very excited to have my major now being nursing. I'm very excited to join the nursing program in the spring, and I think that it's just going to be a great, great opportunity for me. Thank you for listening.